The most ironic thing that's happened to the anime industry over the last few years is that Bleach suddenly started feeling more modern than Boruto and One Piece. I honestly think TYBW isn't just a good sequel to an old anime. To me, it feels like a real symbol of how much the industry has changed over the last decade. And if we're being real, the new arc especially highlights just how outdated the late Naruto and modern Boruto approach has become. Ironically, Bleach won because it once lost. Back during the classic Big Three era, the weekly format felt completely normal. Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach were constantly airing without stopping, and it felt like one endless adventure. But when you go back and rewatch a lot of those older arcs today, the feeling is very different. You start noticing the endless reused shots, the stretched out dialogue where the story barely moves forward. Bleach suffered from this especially hard because Kubo's style was always built around atmosphere, visual aesthetics, and making every moment feel heavy and meaningful. Weekly production completely destroyed that aesthetic. That's exactly why TYBW feels so unbelievable now. Pierrot basically took an old franchise and rebuilt it for the modern era of prestige anime. The seasonal format gave the studio the ability to stop surviving episode to episode and actually build a real artistic vision, and you can see it in almost every single frame. Sometimes TYBW doesn't even feel like a TV series. It feels like a long cinematic anime movie. And let's be honest, a lot of people really felt this contrast through Boruto. While TYBW was getting some of the studio's best animators, Boruto started visually falling apart, and the issue wasn't even just a few bad frames here and there. The real problem was the inconsistency. One episode could look amazing, and then the next 5 would feel like unfinished drafts. Bleach, meanwhile, creates this feeling of constant quality, and modern audiences notice that immediately. Also, modern audiences definitely wouldn't mind subscribing to my channel either. Right now, around 20,000 people are watching my videos, but only a few have actually subscribed. Help me reach my goal of 500 subscribers, and I'll keep making videos for you guys every single day. Thanks to everyone, and now let's keep going. Bleach suddenly understands the modern internet better than a lot of newer anime do. You can especially see it in the pacing. It almost never wastes the viewer's time, and every episode pushes the story forward. There's no filler feeling, no endless repetition of the same idea, no scenes that exist just to fill airtime. And in the era of TikTok, shorts, and fast content consumption, that became incredibly important. People are used to dense information delivery now. If a series loses momentum, viewers just leave. Late Naruto and Boruto struggled here constantly. They kept operating under old television logic where the audience would come back next week no matter what. If you think One Piece took a different path, that's really not the case. It actually has even more pointless episodes and dragged out pacing than you can probably imagine. And this is where another reason behind Bleach's dominance appears: atmosphere. It's hard to explain to someone who's never really felt Kubo's aesthetic. Bleach was never just about fights. It was always about the vibe, about that cold sense of style. A few years ago, people online were mocking the word aura, but TYBW is literally built around that exact feeling. Sometimes a single look from Aizen hits harder than an entire battle. And that ended up fitting perfectly with the social media era. Short edits of Aizen or Ichigo pull millions of views because Bleach is visually designed for that format. Kubo instinctively understood the power of silhouettes, contrast, and stylish character design long before TikTok existed. His characters genuinely look like they were created for modern shorts content. But the biggest change in TYBW isn't even the visuals. It's the tone of the story itself. Naruto was always built around hope and redemption. Even the most tragic villains usually received understanding and forgiveness. In Boruto, this issue became even more noticeable because a lot of the conflicts feel artificial. Very often it feels like the older generation is being weakened purely to push the new characters forward. Bleach went in the complete opposite direction. From the very first episodes of the new arc, the audience understands that nobody is truly safe. The Quincy invasion feels like a real catastrophe, not just another tournament or training arc. That's why Bleach connected so strongly with older audiences. The people who grew up with the Big Three are older now too, and today they relate more to stories about consequences consequences, exhaustion, the feeling of the world ending, and moral grayness. Bleach unexpectedly ended up perfectly synchronized with that mood, because Yuak doesn't just work as a powerful enemy, he feels like an all-encompassing disaster. His philosophy attacks the very foundation of the Bleach universe itself. He doesn't simply want to defeat the heroes, he wants to erase the entire concept of fear and life, destroy the boundaries between worlds, and return reality itself to primordial chaos. And once you start digging into the Soul King lore, the story suddenly becomes almost cosmological. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. After the Fourth Great Ninja War, Naruto lost its sense of mystery. The world became too explained. We know almost every country, almost every power system, almost the entire history. Even the Otsutsuki eventually started feeling like standard alien bosses. Bleach did the opposite. The new arc, especially the novels, brought back the feeling of forbidden knowledge. The story of the Soul King, the five noble families, and the original sin of Soul Society makes the Bleach universe even more fascinating. You start realizing that the Soul Reapers aren't nearly as heroic as they once seemed. And the deeper the lore gets, the more terrifying the entire system becomes. This is where Bleach unexpectedly outplayed its competitors. It made fans theorize again. And honestly, that feels incredible, because the modern internet thrives on theories, analysis, hidden details, and discussions about symbolism. Bleach constantly feeds viewers exactly that kind of material. Definitely leave a like if you agree with me. But there's another factor people underestimate. The internet loves comeback stories, especially when it involves a franchise that spent years being treated like the loser. Bleach was mocked for way too long by certain YouTube creators. A lot of people kept repeating the myth that the anime got cancelled because of bad ratings, even though the reality was way more complicated. And now TYBW feels like revenge against the entire industry. Kubo literally got a second chance to finish his story the way he originally wanted to. And strangely enough, it's Kubo's honesty that made Bleach's return feel so emotional. He doesn't try to pretend everything was perfect. He openly admits that the manga ending was rushed because of various issues, and audiences can feel that honesty. That's why people are rooting for Bleach right now, not just as an anime, but as a creative journey. Bleach feels more modern than a lot of newer shonen series. Not because it abandoned its past, but because it finally understood what it was always best at. The franchise that was once considered the weakest member of the big three suddenly became the most cinematic, the most talked about, and possibly the most aesthetically complete. And right now, I'm really curious whether the final core of TYBW can fully cement Bleach as the greatest comeback story in anime history. Can Kubo truly reveal everything, fully complete Aizen's storyline, and restore that feeling of mystery even after the ending? Let me know in the comments if you feel this Bleach dominance in modern culture too, or if you still think Naruto and One Piece are the more influential franchises. Personally, I honestly don't think that anymore,